How's it going, everybody? I am Preston Johnson.
Welcome to
Last Word Cheetah, brought to you by Bets TV.
You guys are general life philosophy.
That's exactly right. You're a fish.
Qwan, by the way, my producer, Qwan Young, doing a good job. He'll be taking the calls. How you doing today, bud?
Hey, man, how are you?
I'm trying to give away $25,000. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Welcome to the show, Bets TV, bringing you Last Word Cheetah. Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Last Word Cheetah. It is Monday. I am Preston Johnson, your host, alongside Qwan Young, who's producing over on the side. How was your weekend, man? Was it
It's
good?
horrible, man.
Horrible?
Listen, I'm going to tell a story.
Okay, let's get into it. Let's go.
Kickball is aggressive out here.
Kickball. Who'd you play kickball with?
I play kickball on Friday nights
Okay.
in an adult league. So
Was there money on the line?
there was no money on the line. I play in like the fun division, the division where there are no expectations and
That's
I
good.
don't have to be, a beast. But I am. But Friday, I got my behind kicked, like in every way, shape, and form. It started with some aggressive base running. I took a single or a bunt by one of the ladies on the team, and I tried to stretch it to 3, and I pulled my hamstring.
Wait, you tried to stretch a bunt into
Listen,
a triple.
I'm Willie Mays Hayes, okay?
Okay.
Run like Mays, hit like Hayes. I took first to third, and when I rounded second, I pulled my hamstring. So I'm normally the pitcher, so I was rolling, and they started taking advantage of it. They small balled me, so I couldn't get off the mound. So I got put at third, made a spectacular play at third, and then they said you can't move anymore, so they put me at first.
Oh gosh.
So around the 4th or 5th inning, we got like a three-run lead. And, I'm hobbling around like Lieutenant Dan, and I try to round third. I get real slick, and I'm galloping. So I get caught like in between. It wasn't a complete pickle. The pitcher grabbed the ball, and I got caught. So I ducked one. He ran. I'm still hobbling. He got it, threw it back at me. The catcher got it. She is a monster. She headbutted me.
Oh
And
wow.
almost knocked me unconscious. I saw stars. And, everybody was chilling. They were like, are we going to call the game? No. So I went back out there.
You kept playing.
I kept playing. I'm a gladiator. I need to be a warrior in some capacities.
So hold on. What happened to this lead?
We
you had a
won.
3 or 4. So you ended up winning. So why'd you say it was a bad weekend?
It was a bad listen,
You're
I
the
can't-
gladiator. You got the dub. Like you shouldn't be complaining.
My hamstring is going to fall off.
Can't
the
walk?
bone.
I had not heard that story. I didn't know you even played in a kickball league. It sounds extremely intense. I'm glad I do not play. But would they wear like catcher's gear and everything?
No.
No. Okay.
It's just straight up man on man, woman on woman.
Man. Well,
How was your weekend?
no kickball stories.
Wasn't that intense?
Relaxed, hung with some family, did a little pool day, jacuzzi time. Nothing too crazy happened. Watched game 3 of the NBA Finals. Not too bad.
Well,
Bucks
hold
bouncing
on.
back. Yeah,
First, you got to tell the people about Friday. And
I have. Are you talking about the fly?
no, I'm talking
Oh,
about the
okay.
name drop.
Oh gosh, this was not planned. It's not on my little rundown that I made. But what, you gonna play something? You got
No,
something
I was
ready?
just- I was just excited.
Okay, so after the show ended Friday, which by the way, he did get the fly out in time. So for people that are unaware, we had a bet. There was a fly that somehow got into the studio. If he had gotten rid of it before the hour of the show ended Friday, I'd put $500 into like the caller prize pool for the month, because for those that are tuning in for the first time, we take your calls, 661-515-BETS. You give us winners. We track them throughout the month, and we're going to give away cash at the end. So I thought that was what he was alluding to. We did get rid of the fly, but after the show ended, I didn't want to say it on air, so I dropped it to Qwan. I was like, no, the reason why I got like a haircut, I did a beard trim, got my nails done even. I was like, word is Paris Hilton's going to be at this dinner in Malibu that I'm attending. And I was like 18th of 18 invited. So I was like really excited. They fit me in. Paris bringing her fiance. But I did secretly tell Qwan, I said, I still feel like it's an underdog that she shows. 'Cause let's be honest, a bunch of like NFT nerds from Twitter, a couple artists that are pretty down to earth. So I shouldn't call them all nerds, but I don't know if she's going to show on a Friday night. Like, she has better things to do. I will say this: she did not show up. So I don't know. I still probably would have gotten, my beard trimmed and my hair cut anyway. But I was a little disappointed. She was nice enough and thoughtful enough to call 30 minutes before. Said she was stuck filming. You know how it goes, Qwan, when they're filming the kickball games. When they do the 30 for 30 Qwan Young kickball series or whatever. Anyways, I'm not sure why you wanted me to bring that up other than she didn't end up making it. So
it's a name drop, man.
Yeah, it was. I did drop it on a podcast I did last week with Jeff Ma and Rufus Peabody too. So I'll take ownership of it. And I couldn't get a picture, so no proof, but it's because she was doing a kickball series with Qwan. I did. You know what I did buy though?
What?
By the way, phone lines are open whenever you guys are ready. 661-515-BETS. We'll have a few breaks throughout the show, but we'll get to your calls mostly in the first half. We also are talking to Dylan at Thoughts of Dylan on Twitter to help recap my SEC. He's someone that I know from the betting space. He watches more college football than even I did before I had kids, and super sharp. So I wanted to get his reactions to some of the SEC conversations we had last week. And then I'll talk Big Ten. Then we're going to go over the Big Ten throughout the entirety of this week on the show. But first, I also wanted to announce that we are doing a Space Jam 2 premiere for those that are local down here in Orange County or even LA. We're at Irvine Spectrum. Our studios are literally right across from the movie theater. It's going to be brought to you by Bets TV, but I bought like 10 Space Jam tickets. So we're going to do something. It's at 4 o'clock on Friday, local time. We're opening it up to anyone who wants to show up. Basically, the first 8. Qwan and I are going. 2 of those tickets are for us. But the next 8, I'll be announcing it. I'll remind everyone on Friday at least. But if you show up, you got yourselves a ticket. You can chill, watch Space Jam 2 in the premiere Friday. Whew. Caller leaderboard, by the way. You guys were smoking. Mikey was up tied with Ryan. I believe they each had like 4 or 5 wins. And then just, man, he has been struggling since. Struggle bus, but he's up still, I think, 5.9 units. Still leads the leaderboard, but a few people have been making their way, catching back up. But again, at the end, we'll have at least $500. We'll think of another challenge this week, probably. Maybe it'll be Space Jam 2 related. Oh, that's a good one. Remember how you made fun of me for looking at the phones in the movie theater? Over, under, how many times I pull out my phone during Space Jam 2 on Friday?
I wanna bet on LeBron's stat line in the movie.
In the game?
In the movie.
We won't know it.
No.
Here's the thing. The movies, like the sports movies. Okay, here's one thing that bugs me. Like, I've been watching that new show on Disney Plus, Big Shot. The Big Shot, maybe. Girls
Jesse,
basketball. Right? Yeah, you got it. I mean, it was fine. It was good, but like the scores never make sense. Like, you see like 3 pick and rolls, steals for layups, and it goes from like they're down 20, it's like 54-36, and all of a sudden they cut it to a 2-point game and they're calling timeout and they don't have the ball, and then inevitably steal it on the inbounds, and the girl's wide open for 3 somehow, down 2, when the defense should normally be saying like anything but a 3. Anyways, it always seems to work out in those films or those movies, but we'll see. Space Jam 2, how many points does LeBron score? Let me think about it. We'll set a line. We'll break it down Friday. It can be your Qwan fate of the year. You're going to be like, LeBron drops 400 or something ridiculous.
Horrible odds.
And Bugs Bunny is going to, I don't know what. Cool. 661-515-BETS. That's our line one more time. We will be taking more calls on the other side. This is Last Word Cheetah, brought to you by Bets TV. And again, college football later, but calls until the midpoint of the show. Please call in. Give us winners. We need winners. You guys slowed down to end last week. We need some W's, and we'll talk to you on the other side. Welcome back, everybody, to Last Word Cheetah. This is my show brought to you by Bets TV. We have multiple callers on the line. We're going to jump right into it. We got about a 9 or 10 minute stretch. We'll hit on as many games as we can. We'll talk to our friends. I think first is up as Mike. He probably heard me earlier talking down on how he's lost a bunch straight. He's going to complain about Jay Crowder prop bet beats that weren't even bad beats. Mike, welcome to the show. Hope you had a good weekend, man. Tell us what you like today.
Anytime you lose by half a point, it's a bad beat. I'm just putting that out there. But
That's fine.
yeah, man, bad. Tough loss this weekend with the McGregor fight. It is what it is. So we move forward. Today, I got a home run derby prop for y'all.
Okay.
We got it's FanDuel. Home run derby, length of longest home run, 519 and a half feet. I'm on the under, and although it is Coors Field, since 2015, only one home run has been hit past 500 feet at Coors Field, and that was Stat, and it was 506 feet. So I'm going with the under 519 and a half.
519 and a half feet. You have Ohtani, Gallo, Alonso, Olsen, Story, Perez, Soto, and Mancini, I believe, are the ones. Oh, yeah, I think that's 8. Those are the ones that are competing in the home run derby. These guys just rip it so hard. I'll say maybe the ball is a little bit different today. I should say this season. Not going as far, but with Coors Field and a home run derby, they're just blasting. I could not bet under. I actually respect that you're going contrarian while everyone's trying to, bet overs there. So we'll lock you in 519 and a half. Thanks for the call, Mike. Good luck. All right, let's welcome in. I believe I heard during the break. Is Patrick up next? We got Patrick. All right, man. Welcome to the show. How you doing?
Hey, what's going on, Preston?
I'm doing well. How's your weekend?
Oh, pretty good. And you know what? I'm going to name drop, too. Word on the street is that Nicole Richie's going to be at my kid's swim meet tonight.
Ooh.
I don't know if it's going to happen, but that's what I heard. It's the other half of, what was that, The Simple Life? Remember that show
Yeah,
from like
I think
the early
that's
2000s?
it. Swim meet.
But
That's
anyway,
good. She might show up if she has like a kid that's actually swimming. That's a little different than.
Yeah, with the dude from Good Charlotte. She's married to one of the twins from Good Charlotte, I think.
Oh, there you go.
That's a reference.
I jammed Good Charlotte back in my day. The old
Good Charlotte.
pop punk.
Oh, yeah.
Philly.
Oh, yeah.
2000.
Yeah. I dig it.
I like their self-titled album before Lifestyles of the Rich and the Famous with like Little Things, Motivation Proclamation. That was good stuff.
Well done,
But
man.
anyway,
Patrick's
actually,
his pop punk history. Man, I should just give him a W just for that.
you know what? I've been back in the day. All the MXPX shows, Blink 182, Sum 41, Simple Play. I mean, I went to those shows consistently in St. Louis.
That's
I mean, I'm your guy for that.
You're a little bit older than me, but I listened to, like, for example, like Blink 182 and MXPX were two of my first favorite bands I ever had. And Weezer, the Blue Album from Weezer was up there. Life in General from MXPX was the first MXPX album I got. But I was totally into it. My dad wouldn't let me go to shows until I got into like high school, so I missed out on like seeing a lot of those bands in the early days. But I try to make up for it. Yeah, go for it.
One of my first shows was actually MXPX and Blink. It was called like the Poo Poo Pee Pee Tour or whatever. They played a small venue.
That sounds about right.
But that's what it was called. But anyway, okay, back to my pick. I'm going with the home run derby at Coors as well. But I actually heard that they're not using a humidor, so those balls should fly tonight. But I'm going to go with Matt Olson for the sole reason that he's facing off against Trey Mancini in the first round, and I think that's probably the weakest link in this derby.
Yep.
So hopefully he gets passed by Trey Mancini, and then it's a crapshoot who wins from there. Who knows?
I like it. I like it. And by the way, I think more people should be taking shots on the home run derby. It's one of the lone events we have today to even use as a bet. And you can I'll give you 7-1 on Olsen. Is that okay? Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
I just pulled up
great.
2 spots.
The sports
okay.
betting landscape is bleak this week, so not much going on.
Yep. I think it's a good bet. We'll lock you in. Hopefully someone calls in, gets a W, and they'll put themselves maybe potentially in the lead. Appreciate it, Patrick.
All right. See you guys.
Take care. All right. Who is up next? I'm not sure who we're talking to, but welcome to Last Word, Cheetah. This is Preston. Who we got?
What's up, Preston? It's Carlos.
Carlos.
What's going on, buddy?
Nothing much, man. How was your weekend?
It was wonderful. I lost on Friday though. You know the trend thing. Yeah, that
The
doesn't
trend
work.
thing, I'm telling you, the try to find what's due angle. We'll hit on it again if we need to, but it just doesn't work very often, man. Eventually you'll learn. Maybe, luckily today there's no baseball card to bet on. You got a home run derby potentially. What are you thinking?
The National League is due.
Definitely. I like Pete Alonso first round. I know it's chalky, but the guy, I forget who he's going against. You know, I mean,
I can give
Alonso
you the
defend the title.
Yeah, I'll give you.
I just want a
I'll give
W,
you
man.
odds.
You know what I'm
He's
saying?
going to be a Salvador Perez.
There you go. I want a W. Let me get a W.
I mean, you do. Carlos knows he has nothing to lose. He's trying to rack up W's, but he's laying minus 250 on Alonso to beat Perez in his matchup for the Heat winner. If you lose, I'm not sure exactly where your unit total is. It's probably already negative, despite the free winner from your daughter earlier last week. So yeah, you'll probably be in the hole like 4 units or something if this one doesn't work out. So I am rooting for you, Carlos. We need one. We need a W.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Take it easy, man. Good luck tonight.
All right.
He didn't start off too bad. He just put faith in me in the hot dog contest, and then he put faith. I mean,
everyone tried that. We failed them dramatically. Don't look that up.
No.
Friday before July 4th, July 2nd. Don't look up that episode and watch us trying to eat hot dogs really quickly. Do we have anyone else on the line? We're good? All right. Here's the thing with the home run derby is, I mean, you can shop around. Sometimes you can find advantages. The books are generally going to vig you pretty hard because it's just something for fun that people are betting. But it is something that people should be calling in and taking shots on, because if you lose, you're only down a unit for your monthly tally. And if you hit, say, Olsen like Patrick did, that's +7. He's immediately, off the top of my head, in first. I don't think he's really minus. Maybe he's around break even so far this month. So I think it's worth a shot. We have about 2 more minutes before we have to take another break. If anyone wants to call in and throw something out, 661-515-BETS. Otani's a massive favorite too. You don't really see favorites this big in events like occasionally like Steph Curry in the 3-point contest. It'll kind of be Steph versus the field. Maybe not quite Otani here. Like you can get +175, +200 range. It's probably just not worthwhile. I know as great as he has been, there's just so many other power hitters in the mix that would be the last person I would go with. I also don't know if I'd necessarily go with Trey Mancini and going at the 12-1 shot, but something, what about a going home story for Trevor Story? Pardon the going home story pun. I did that on accident, and I realized
there was a lot of stories in there.
Yeah, that's his name. He's going back to where he played back in the day with the Rockies. There's something there. You can get him at 9-1. I think that's a little high. Don't necessarily disagree with Olsen either, which he does have. I think him and Alonso have the easiest first-round matchups. They're the most likely to at least advance. And then, like you said, after that, it's really just kind of a toss-up, which is why I think I would avoid Otani, avoid the favorites. We'll get a little more home run derby. Again, I think you guys, we have one more segment. We'll take calls before we jump in with Dylan to break down and recap the SEC. He disagreed with me on one futures bet I made. I'll leave it for the call that we had with him. And then we're going to talk Big Ten finally. Big Ten football. We'll bring that in just to double check before we hit the break. No callers, right? We're good. All right. 661-515-BETS. We'll take you on the other side. Talk to you guys soon. Welcome back to Last Word Cheetah. We do have Bob on the line. I was just told we're going to bring him on first. And then Qwan surprising me with another NFL futures breakdown. I was surprised he went with the Jets as the third worst team in football. They're probably bottom 5 or 6, but I do have another team I have projected to be worse than the Jets. And Zach Wilson, I got to give him some love. But Bob, welcome to the show. We'll get into Qwan's NFL futures and discussion on the Jets in a second. Tell us what you're betting tonight. Is it the home run derby? If so, what's the long shot that you're taking?
Well, I would take a Seattle Mariner.
I almost said something, man. I almost said, why is he calling in? There are no Mariners in the home run derby. But I was like, I don't want to rub it in. I mean, the guy already loses enough betting the Mariners every day.
I missed out on Thursday's game because I actually went to the game.
Qwan and I joked around about that on Friday, actually, off air. So we're in tune with it, man. I guess you got to go. Who's the closest? Is Ohtani the closest to Washington?
He is, and he did hit one in the upper deck. It's funny, when I was at now they call it T-Mobile Park, I asked, hey, has anybody ever hit one out of here when it was Safeco or T-Mobile? And the guy's like, no, but a few have gone upper deck. And then Ohtani went upper deck the next night. But I'm going for value because, well, yeah, I picked the Mariners, and I don't hardly ever win that. So I'm going to go for Joey Gallo tonight. How about that?
Okay. What price do you see?
I don't think anybody – I don't know if somebody's already grabbed him or if that's how.
No, so far you're the only Gallo, so we can lock you in for that. I got 400 in front of me, plus 400. Does that work?
Okay, sure. Yeah.
All right. Any reason other than he's the second favorite after Ohtani?
Yeah, he's a lefty too, so I don't know. He's in the opposite bracket as Ohtani and Soto, and I think even Alonso too, right?
Yep, I think that's right.
Yeah.
Cool. So taking a shot. I mean, that's probably why he is the second favorite, right? He gets to fade the tougher bats going in, but once he's in the final, anything can happen. Right on, man. We'll lock you in. Hopefully this makes up for all the Mariners L's. We'll get you a plus 400 winner.
You can take fewer cuts. I think it sets you up to win the final round, right?
Yes, that is true. A little healthier, not as tired, more rested. You should be good.
Yeah. So.
Anyway, all right, man. Good luck tonight, and we'll hopefully talk to you tomorrow or the next day, whenever the Mariners come back and start playing again.
All right. Thank you much.
Take care. All right, you ready to roll this? We have another caller. All right, we can just fit them in. We'll get to the Jets after the next break, I think. Let's speak to who do we have on the line?
This is Saurabh, man. How's it going, Preston?
Hey, how's it going? How's your weekend?
Good, man. How about you?
It was really good. I appreciate it. Where are you going? Are you going home run derby? You taking a long shot?
Yes, I'm going to take a shot with Pete Alonso to win.
Okay. What price do you see in front of you? Are you looking at it right now?
No, I'm not actually.
All right. I have one book up in front of me. I can give you 5-1 if that works.
Yeah, that'll work.
Cool. We'll lock you in. Break us a little bit down on the Alonso pick.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's like you said, he's got the pretty good first round matchup, and I think he won last year, so just going with the long shot there.
There we go. We'll lock you in, man. We appreciate the call. Good luck tonight.
Thanks.
Can we run this Jets before the break? Can we get it out in time? All right. Qwan's going to give you a little breakdown on the New York Jets and why they will be winning the Super Bowl in 2021-22.
What's up, everybody? It's me, DeQuan Young, and I'm back talking more NFL futures. Today, we're talking about the New York Jets, and this is another team in rebuild mode. Following an abysmal 2-14 season, which saw the exits of head coach Adam Gase and the number 3 overall pick in the 2018 draft, Sam Darnold, new coach Robert Saleh and the Jets selected Zach Wilson, number 2 overall, giving the Jets a solid quarterback foundation to build on. Now, Saleh will have some work to do turning around this below-average defense, which was ranked near the bottom third of the league last year. But that was expected, and look for this unit to improve next year. And that's why the future is all about Zach Wilson. And let's be real, there is no competition for the QB job. So look for Zach Wilson to be your day one starter, and look for him to have a great season under new OC Mike LaFleur. Drafting speedster Elijah Moore out of Ole Miss will give the Jets some great weapons for Wilson to utilize. including the addition of Michael Carter, who led the nation last season with 18 rushes of 20 or more yards and set a school record while averaging 6.62 yards per rush for his career. This is why, once again, the New York Jets' future is all about Zach Wilson. So if you're looking to make some bets on the Jets, here's some of the prices you can get. Now, there are a few player props for Zach Wilson that I really love, especially him as Offensive Rookie of the Year. Check out the player prop shop on FTN Daily to get up-to-date prices. This has been DeQuan Young talking NFL futures for the New York Jets. Up next, the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Welcome back, everybody. I am Preston Johnson alongside Qwan Young. As usual, we're going to jump in to some Big Ten discussion before we talk to Dylan later in the show, breaking down some of my SEC that we broke down last week. So we're going to kind of go Big Ten, then back to the SEC with Dylan. And he does like one future, though, in the Big Ten that's worth listening to down the stretch. I will say I don't necessarily agree, but the price he got, I know, was quite a bit better than is currently in the market. So we're going to start doing it like last week. I start with my top teams going through the conference. So Ohio State will be first. That's no surprise to anybody. We'll hit on two more teams after them and just kind of do three a day until we break through on Friday. Ohio State's my fifth-ranked team in the country. So if you were watching last week, Georgia's number 4. I think it's pretty safe to assume Alabama's number 1. Clemson's probably number 2. So who's number 3 if Ohio State's 5? I'll let you guys figure it out, but it isn't too difficult. But I think a lot of people like Phil Steele, for example, I marked here. He has them 3rd as far as Ohio State goes. And PFF, who did a college football preview this year, I've been referencing, has them 5th. My personal projection, throw up the odds and prices for these Big Ten teams. I have them at 10.3 wins projected. I could only bet under 11 for Ohio State. And when it's all said and done, I think it pushes on 11 pretty frequently. But I see 10 or fewer wins more often than I do 12. Part of it, I think, outside of C.J. Stroud taking over under center, and I guess you could say there's maybe question marks here. Ultimately, look, Ryan Day offenses are smooth, and if he's not as good as Justin Fields, it's going to be close. And I'm not too worried because he has, Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson is. I think both of them graded top 15 in receiver production last year for PFF, and I think project to be both of them in the top 5 this season alone. So when he has those guys and those weapons, I think they'll be okay. The problem has been defensively under Ryan Day. The defense, look, last year outside the top 100 in EPA defensively. I think they were 101. Qwan, if you want to shoot up the Ohio State graphic, you guys can take a look here at some of their other metrics. And success rate, they performed a little bit better. They were 75th in the country. They don't bring back very much, and this is a season we've talked about it plenty last week. The average returning production rate is typically 63%. This year, because of that extra year of eligibility that the NCAA granted after the whole COVID and quarantining stuff last season, it's up to 77%. So it's an increase of 14% on average. So they're 51%. It's the third lowest in all of college football. Where does that get them on a defensive side? They just weren't very good anyway. They play cover 3 at the third highest rate in the entire league. I should say not even league, in the country, in the nation. And it seems that teams have kind of figured out when they're not disguising their cover 3 blitzes. They don't get a ton of pressure on offensive quarterbacks that are dropping back. And so if they're not able to, I think, improve defensively in a way that can at least compete or match what they're doing offensively, then it's probably going to be what keeps them ultimately from winning the national title. Granted, they still grade out and project to be the best team in the Big Ten. So there's nothing for me that I like as far as a bet is concerned here. Would lean under at 11, but nothing that I've actually taken. Let's loop back to the odds. We had Wisconsin as my second best team in the Big Ten. They're 10th overall. I believe Phil still has them 13th. PFF has them 14th. So I'm maybe a little bit more bullish on the Badgers. I actually like that I am. They're not really a sexy team. Nobody likes watching Wisconsin games generally. They play slow. They rely on the defense and the run game. They have an offensive line that always ranks, top couple in the country. What's really interesting about last season, though, that I think is being overlooked to some degree in the market still is Graham Mertz, as a new quarterback that takes over. In those first few games, he was like a Heisman candidate. And it was like Illinois, Michigan. I believe there was a third or fourth game in there where he looked and Wisconsin looked like they were the real deal. And it kind of woke everyone up because they just had such subpar quarterback play until that point. Then Mertz hurt his shoulder. And midseason, his last 5 games, he dropped off pretty significantly. Now, everyone knew he kind of was dealing with a shoulder. After the season was over, they said it was, worse than they were putting on or letting on, which how much of that do you really take? I think when you knew about the shoulder in real time, he plays through it. You knew he wasn't 100%, and then, he wasn't as good. I think you can at least say that he should be somewhere in between maybe where those first few weeks were and where those last 5 weeks were. And again, this is his second season anyway. It was a weird first season anyway with all of the preparation and the offseason thrown out the window because of COVID. So I think there's just a ton of upside for this offense that already has one of the best offensive lines in rushing games generally behind Paul Chryst. And one thing that I think is really important to note, their defense, they were third in pressure rate. They disguise blitzes really well. They have a secondary they can rely on. They were second in the country in rushing yards allowed before contact. So because of their blitzing, they're not letting anybody get through the line before they're there and at least causing some sort of havoc in some sense. They ranked 14th defensively in EPA, 10th in success rate. I think in yards per play, they ranked even a little bit better than both of those. They do play a tough schedule because they're in the Big Ten. I believe they also have a game against Notre Dame, a non-conference game. So maybe that's why their season win total is a little bit lower. I think, and I didn't say this before, I think the 90.5 is fair on average. That's where my win projection is. But the one point I wanted to make about the defense, Jim Leonhard, the defensive coordinator, after that extraordinary season, I think really that back half is what kept them in any games at all because Mertz was struggling with a shoulder injury. He turned down a defensive coordinator job with the Green Bay Packers to stay. And I think that's super telling on, obviously, the chemistry they have between coaches, between the players, just the entire organization, if you want to call it, the entire university in that form. So I like Wisconsin's chances, and I will say this. You look at the odds one more time, Qwan, between Wisconsin and Penn State, for example. Penn State have shorter odds than Wisconsin, and they are in the same division as Ohio State, who's a pretty big favorite. And I would much rather bet on Wisconsin to potentially win the Big Ten, or in this case, I like the division at plus 105 is the one quoted. I've seen as high as plus 120 in the division for the West on Wisconsin. Plus 115, plus 120 is actually pretty available. So Wisconsin win the division. That's where I would go. I would avoid win total, but I still think there's an upside to Wisconsin, especially offensively, that we just haven't seen yet. And then Penn State, look, James Franklin's done a fantastic job the last 4 years. He's done, let's see, before the 4-5 COVID weird season, I think they won 11 games in 3 of those 4. And Clifford just kind of dropped off. And I was digging in. I was like, what is it about Sean Clifford under center? Why is it that he has the legs, he's able to move. I think he was also dealing with an injury at some point last season. They grade out as one of the worst receiving cores in the entire conference, but fairly average relative to the rest of the country, despite recruiting ranks that rank pretty high as a whole. Defensively, they're going to be really strong. Can they make up, though, for the lack of maybe Clifford taking a step everyone anticipated last season and the fact he has no one to throw to? That's a fair question. So what I have kind of circled, I project 8.1 wins for Penn State. I like under 9. I think it's going to be tough for them to get to 10 wins, despite them being my 11th best team in the country. They play one of the toughest schedules in the country. And the final thing, unders. Early in the season, I tentatively circled those, potentially game to game as a team that without receiving help, without a quarterback that can make throws down the field and convert them, and a running back duo that's probably the best in the entire country potentially as well, where they're eating up more clock. And defensively, again, I think they're going to be really elite. So I like unders. Penn State, as the win total is concerned, but also even game to game from a scoring output standpoint. I think that wraps it up, man. Ohio State, nothing there. Wisconsin to win the division at plus money. Penn State under 9. And then, again, circling the unders for Penn State and Nittany Lions. I think they're going to be tough getting points early, and the defense is just going to be one of the best in the country. So we'll leave it with that. That's my little Big Ten breakdown so far. We'll have 3 new teams that we'll go through tomorrow for Last Word Cheetah on tomorrow's show. When we get back, we're going to bring Dylan on. I spoke to him about where I went wrong with the SEC last week and where he sees a little bit of value to the market. We'll talk to you guys soon. Welcome back to the show. We're going to jump straight into my discussion that I had with Dylan earlier in the day. We had to get our schedules lined up to where I could speak to him. He could break down some SEC discussion for this upcoming season, react to my bets. We want to make sure we can get both. It's about a 12-minute call, I think, 13 minutes potentially. We'll play the majority of it before the first break. We'll finish it on the other side. I'll react to his reactions. We'll talk to Qwan, get a little Qwan fades action potentially in the home run derby, and we'll wrap up. So if you're ready to go, let's go ahead and shoot it up. All right, we were able to bring in a friend of mine, Dylan, at Thoughts of Dylan on Twitter, to recap my SEC futures because we were unable to get Ray. There were some technical difficulties Friday. He's going to be back this Friday to talk Big Ten, but I still wanted to get reactions to the bets that I've made and that I like in the SEC. Dylan is someone I'm in a couple of threads with just on Telegram, the Betters College Football. He kind of reminds me a little of myself before I had kids, where he basically is watching every single game. And so I appreciate what he does. He's grinding out there. You can follow him at Thoughts of Dylan. Dylan, if you're ready to go, we're going to get started. My I guess most bullish pick, my team, my school that I like the most is Georgia. I know you have some thoughts about Georgia. I like them 8-1 or better to win it all. And I also like them week 1. You can get anywhere from +4 to +5 range against Clemson. So just tell me your thoughts on Georgia as a whole. JT Daniels and the offense, especially just since I think there's some upside there that they haven't had in years past.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on their offense. I think they were going to open it more last year before their QB situation kind of got thrown into blender, so to speak. I do question if they have that deep threat down the field, like, Devontae Smith or Jamar Chase we've seen in the past that all the national title winners have.
Yeah.
Even with Tariq Gilbert coming into the fold, I think they kind of lack that with George Pickens being hurt. They will at least try to open it up more, unlike past years. And I do like a lot that they addressed their secondary in the portal this offseason. I think that was actually a weakness coming into the season, but they shored it up with a couple of transfers.
So we're going to go Bama for just a minute. I'm not sure. At this point, I think everyone looks at Bama and it's like, you can't really bet them. There's not going to be value. But I guess I'm curious from a game-to-game perspective, like week to week, as we start handicapping early in weeks 1 through 4, more or less. Is there something you're trying to peg or eye on Bama as a whole? They obviously lost a ton of offensive production, and the defense should be a little bit better, I guess. So one thing I've kind of circled is to tentatively look at unders in Bama games. So it's going to be dependent on opponent, going to be dependent on price, but any macro vibe on Bama before we jump into some of those other schools?
Yeah, I don't have a lot to offer there, to be honest. I mean, they are who they are, but I do think they upgrade at linebacker. You see they lose Dylan Moses. You think that's probably a huge deal, but they bring in Toa from Tennessee. He might be the best linebacker in the country, so they probably got better there. They lose their top corner, but I don't think that's a major issue. They were kind of young on the D-line last year. Their best player might have been a true freshman, Will Anderson, so he's another year older. So, yeah, I tend to agree with that. I mean, the quarterback will be – you could say he might be as good or better than Mac Jones. Receivers take a hit, of course, but Agiye Hall is a true freshman who, he's the next, Smith or Waddle or whatnot. I think he'll step in and do great. So, more of the same.
So we're going to go to, I know we talked a little bit before you jumped on the call. I like Vanderbilt this season. Again, relative to where I project them, relative to where the market's at, you can get 3s on the season win total at -140 to the over, or you can get plus money on some 3.5s. I prefer to go 3 if people are watching and listening and can see the differentiating price and have either option. But we talked and you said you actually bet earlier on this summer Vanderbilt under 4, which I think is part of the reason it moved down to 3.5 or even 3 some spots. I like the upside of having someone full-time, true freshman and Seals come in year 2 and that improved the back half of last season against the schedule that against East Tennessee State, Colorado State, and then obviously some of their other foes within conference. I think they have the ability they play UConn too on October 2nd at home. So that's like 3 wins right there just to, I think, potentially push this 3 with the SEC win. It can land 4. I'll be okay with it, but tell us why you dislike Vandy, why you disagree with my general take.
Well, I think their passing game is something I don't hate, but I think I might hate everything else. I think the coaching staff is actually probably okay. I think there's 2 coin flips in non-conference in addition to their 2 wins. I think Stanford probably ekes out a win there on the road. Colorado State, I'm not as sure about. Honestly, Adazio probably messes something up, so Vanderbilt wins. That's partially a joke, but yeah. Anyway, one thing I really don't like is their most winnable conference game, I think, is South Carolina, and that's on the road. And the week before, they're at Florida, and the one place where I think Carolina is okay is in the trenches. And I think that could be a pretty bad mismatch, so I'm not feeling very confident about them stealing that one. They played Tennessee on the road last week of the season. Tennessee has potential to kind of bomb out, as you touched on. It won't be the first or last time they really embarrass themselves, but I do think Tennessee is a step ahead of them still.
I hope they do. That is a big game. I might end up having 2 season win total bets that come down to the last week. They play in the finale.
Right, yeah.
November 27th, I believe, is the date. So it could come down to that. I liked the under 6.5 on the Vols. One thing we agreed on in general, I think LSU, from my ending rating last season versus where they're at now, improved the most of any school in the country. just from a sheer experience standpoint, transfers combined with recruiting, combined with, I think, just some sort of expected regression to their priors after winning it all 2 years ago and then going 5-5 last season. What are your thoughts on LSU as a whole this year, and have you bet anything in relation to their futures?
I think it probably push, or I mean, I'd probably lean push, but yeah, the thing that's most interesting about them, in my opinion, is actually the coaching changes. They bring in Pete. He worked under Brady with Carolina last year, so like they're getting off-brand Joe Brady basically. Yeah. And I think the defense is really what matters. So that's what I think of them last year. I think they basically lost to Mizzou and Mississippi State solely on busted coverages. And I mean, I think 7-3 looks a lot different than 5-5, right? And they bring back their secondary from last year with multiple NFL guys. And I think if they're put in the right position to succeed, their defense can actually be pretty good. And they bring in a D coordinator who was an assistant in the NFL with the Vikings. So I mean, I think he has a baseline of competence. I think that's something to look for in that UCLA game. If they, I actually make the game on market, but if they're good in coverage that game, I think they could run them out. And if not, then it'll probably look, like more the same what we saw last year.
Okay, well that's some good alpha. Maybe potentially something you could bet second half if you're confident in what LSU is bringing to the table defensively against UCLA. I think most people look at their numbers and metrics from last season, at least defensively, right? 101st in EPA, 115th in success rate, yards per play even worse. They're 125th, which I think 127 teams played last year, so third worst in the country. And it's hard for them to get past that. But at the same time, it was a really strange year as a whole, and they did play fewer games than expected. And so the sample size is just, it's untrustworthy in my opinion. I kind of tend to rely on my priors in situations like this because it's actually never happened before. How are you kind of just on a macro level, whether it's SEC or just college football going into the season, handling what you saw last year? Some teams played even fewer games. I'm talking Big Ten this week throughout my show, and some of those teams only played 6 or 7 games. So what's kind of your overall thoughts there?
Well, one thing you kind of touched on right there I think is really interesting. A lot of them played conference only, so like last year they didn't play any cupcakes or Sun Belt teams to pad their stats, so everything was against good competition for the most part. So I think that's pretty interesting. And besides that, everyone said it, but returning production isn't quite as important. Besides that, I'm pretty much going business as usual, to be honest. And there are some teams that you look like they were affected more than others, like Penn State's probably an example. And I would be careful with teams that maybe had an outlier game. For example, Arizona State beat Arizona 70-10 or whatever. If I look at Arizona State stats, I'd say it's probably not truly what happened last interesting.
So yeah, that's exactly. It lines up with kind of the small sample, and then even within the sample, you can find some reasons to like the ASU Arizona game's a perfect one, where let's be honest, they're not going to be a team that beats Arizona 70-7 on average or anything in that realm. So
Right.
let's move to a few of just the teams in the SEC to close this up, and then you can leave us with any final bets, a Heisman bet you may like. But first, I know we had the two biggest discrepancies on where I rated these two teams versus where you have it. I believe the first was Arkansas. You sent me a note here. You said you have them 28th. I have them 40th. And then the other, Kentucky, you have 44th. I have 55th. So I'm a little bit lower on Arkansas and Kentucky. Arkansas is the one that intrigues me the most. I'm generally a little bearish Kentucky. I have been for a few years, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that they've been playing like receivers at quarterback, and somehow they still win games. So maybe I should be giving them more credit. But tell me, and I thought I was kind of more on the upside with Arkansas personally versus some of the other numbers I've even looked at. Like Phil Steele has them outside of his top 50. Why do you have Arkansas at 28?
Yeah, I'm probably like a bit high, and I'll revisit, but I'm actually pretty high on their offense. I mean, I think Jefferson played one game last year at quarterback, and I thought he was pretty good. It was against Mizzou. And I actually went back last night and kind of revisited that game to make sure I wasn't missing anything. He was like 18-33, so nothing to write home about, but he ran pretty well. He was elusive in the pocket, and he took some shots downfield, so I think they're going to let him do that. And like you touched on last week, they have, I think, a good play caller and a good supporting cast. So I think the quarterback's actually pretty good. And on defense, I worry about their D-line, but they have two really good linebackers that can get you maybe 10-8 tackles a game. And the secondary I think they were a little up and down last year, but they were pretty young, and they have some guys that were kind of touted as recruits, some 4-stars that were young, like such as Jalen Catalon. And so I think they could take a step forward. I'm not rushing to bet their win total over, but I think they're going to put up some points and give some teams some trouble that maybe don't expect it.
Excellent. So let's wrap this up. If there are any other futures bets you've made, divisions or conference, season win totals in the SEC, maybe it's even Heisman, national title, or if it's not SEC, anything like futures-wise with Heisman or national title that you like before we let you go.
Yeah, so the only thing I have in the SEC is that Vandy, and then I have Georgia over 10.5. We touched on that.
Nice.
If you need something to get you over on Tuesdays and Wednesday nights, I have Northern Illinois under 3.5. That's still good. You can get that around -120, I think. I think they win 3 games at most. They have 2 wins and like double-digit dog in the rest of their games. Heisman, I like C.J. Stroud of Ohio State. So both the last 2 quarterbacks at Ohio State finished second in the award voting. They have the best receiving core in the country, and also I kind of like how their schedule lays out. You have a Thursday night primetime game to start the season, then the marquee non-conference game in week 2 with that Oregon game, and then that's before you get into your big Big Ten game. So I think he has a chance to kind of catch some eyeballs and put up some big stats. Also, their defense isn't great either. I think they'll play some 48-31 type of games.
Right on, man. We appreciate your time, Dylan. That's at Thoughts of Dylan on Twitter. You can follow along. We'll be in touch, I'm sure. We'll get more of your thoughts throughout the college football season. Appreciate it, man.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, take it easy. Welcome back live. Thanks again to Dylan for jumping in, doing a little SEC talk. He dislikes my Vanderbilt pick. I will survive. I still, especially if you can get those threes that are the -140 range instead of 3.5. Still particularly like it, but I think they win 4 games on average. Like the over. We're going to leave you guys. We got to each pick the home run derby, man. I kind of already alluded to it. The hometown kid, Trevor Story, back into the park and knock a bunch of homers for the third longest shot, 9-1 range. I like Story. I got to take him. So that's the last word for today. Taking a shot on the home run derby. There's nothing else I'm firing on. Who's your pick, Juan? So everyone knows what to not do.
Do not expect Joey Gallo to win.
Someone picked Joey Gallo. All right.
That's my pick.
It lines up. He's on the other side of the bracket, I think someone said, than Otani and Alonso and some of the other favorites. So it could be worse. It could be worse. We'll wrap it with that. Gallo for him, Story for me. We appreciate your calls. Talked a bunch of college football. We'll have more Big Ten college football discussion tomorrow at 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific. This is Last Word Cheetah, brought to you by Bets TV. We'll talk to you guys soon.